Welcome to Let's Hear It.
Let's Hear It is a podcast for and about the field of foundation and nonprofit communications, produced by its two co-hosts, Eric Brown and Kirk Brown. No relation.
Well said, Eric. And I'm Kirk.
And I'm Eric.
The podcast is sponsored by the Communications Network and the Lumina Foundation.
We're talking to people about their work and what's happening in the field with the hopes of making this growing arena just a little bit more accessible to us all.
You can find Let's Hear It on any podcast subscription platform. You can find us on Twitter at Let's Hear It Cast, and you can email us at hello@letshearitcast.com.
Let us know if you have any thoughts about what you hear today, including people we should have on the show.
And if you like the show, please rate us on Apple Podcasts so that more people can find us.
So let's get on to the show.
You're here. You found us. Welcome in. We're so glad to have you. It's Let's Hear It for 2021. And I'm so glad to be joined today by my always special co-host, co-producer, but creative director for this enterprise, Mr. Eric Brown. Welcome to 2021. How you doing?
Kirk Brown, how the hell have you been?
You know, we've been away for a little bit. We've been gone for a bit, and I think it's because the world has been very hard to process, hasn't it?
Well, for starters, we usually release episodes on a Wednesday. And I don't know about you, but my Wednesdays have been I've been a little distracted lately on Wednesdays. And so, you know, it also seems like it was time to just kind of process and take it all in. And now season 3 is here. Can you imagine? Season 3. How about that?
I can't believe it. This is entirely a testament to your tirelessness. That's entirely what's going on here, that we're in this season 3. Can I say, though, I mean, there's been conversation everywhere, but how do you feel now that we're here with the transition? And let's face it, we've just been seeing some brutal things happen in the federal, you know, in Washington, D.C., that is just a reflection of just the horror stories, you know, from last year at so many levels. So how are you processing everything? How is this feeling for you at this point?
You mean, what does a cynical optimist do?
Yeah.
to get
to
reconcile the two poles of their crazy way of thinking?
Yes, please.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that if last year was a year in which we talked about building for the future, and in which we talked about not just playing defense, but planning and building, then this year is the year I hope that we talk about what we're going to do with all that building, about the opportunity that actually exists for nonprofit organizations and foundations to actually make a difference, to do something. And I'm excited about that. I do think that, it's going to be hard. Let's just not kid ourselves that the world has been solved because Joe Biden is the president.
Yeah,
far from it.
Right.
But you can certainly see about how the opportunities present themselves in much different ways than they did before. And given that we talk about communications and how to advocate and how to build movements, these tools are essential. That's kind of sort of how I'm feeling right now.
Well, and you know, it's funny because I was looking back at some of the end of year episodes we posted, and I think you got onto a very prescient track at the end of the year because, you know, those last few episodes, Joy Harjo, we will emerge from this wounding. You know, your colleagues from The Antidote talking about the role of kindness, Daniel Lee, you know, showing us what decades of relentless work in this space can produce and accomplish. I feel like you were kind of preparing us to turn the page, even with those conversations from last year.
And you were preparing me to belly up to a bar that is closed with all of your disinformation and misinformation. But nevertheless,
is it closed?
I just can't wait to go
misinformation bar closed? Is the misinformation bar closed? So we don't play this game very often. So I do want to test you on one of my, you know, and famously David Roberts let me go on very politely. He listened intently, and then he said, "Yeah, I think you're wrong. So get ready."
What?
But here's my question for you. Not the idea, but the individual. So now I'm asking you not about the idea. So the idea is megalomaniac individual can threaten the core of democracy, seemingly, given this horrible combination of factors that are playing out now in our country, in our media landscape. do we have an individual on the radar screen that we can identify that has the credentials that a Donald Trump brought to that equation in terms of his decades-long presence in the public psyche and the public consciousness? And is that element, is that part of this story a black swan ingredient that may not be so readily resurrected, even as we wrestle with all these things related to misinformation, the economic issues that are ahead, this incredible polarization, the fact that we don't even know what's true, given how much of this is bots and propaganda, et cetera. But what about just that piece? Is there an individual that we can identify that has that decades-long history so that they can occupy that megalomaniac place? Like, was Donald Trump basically a black swan in that sense?
I don't see it that way. I see it kind of the right is from Mars and the left is from Venus. That the right needs a megalomaniac. It needs somebody to unlock or to tap into these festering challenges and things like that. And I think that the left, that progressive thinking, progressive politics is really based on a communitarian approach, and that you need communities across the country coming together. That I don't think that we're quite as susceptible to that level of populism. Now, I could be wrong, and somebody could come along and show me that I'm wrong. But I think that the much more enduring set of movements are created from a loosely a federation. Not a presidency per se, a small p presidency or whatever you want to call it, and not a centrally organized or controlled set of politics. I mean, that's enduring. That's the thing that you can build on. It's the thing that has generational power. It doesn't get overturned when your megalomaniac goes off to their stupid place in Florida.
Yeah, right. Well, and we've tried a lot of ground on this podcast. We don't typically live in the federal policy domain. I mean, all of this work has implications there, and we've had some people who really live there, but we've had a lot of people on who've been doing work in a much more local context and, statewide, regional, et cetera. And not even always so much focused on policy. I mean, oftentimes focused on providing really crucial human services and things like that. I will say one of the things I'm interested to see play out here, whatever your feelings might be about the broad brush of politics in America and who comes forward and who gets elected and who gets chosen and what's right or wrong about that, it does strike me that the one thing that is not in question in this moment is the question of competency. The notion that we have this president who comes from this long tenure in Washington, D.C., who is a 2-term vice president, who's got this team of people now he's putting into different spots that all have been there and have done that, and also seem to be saying, and we're trying to learn from our past mistakes, so let's try to do this better. I think when I really pause and think back at it, just irrespective of left or right, when you look back at the last cadence of presidential administrations, this notion that we can draw on such a competent bench of players to get this work done, to me, I think that this is almost like the question of the day is like, what does just simple competency get us in all these key areas? What do you think about that?
I think it's a start, but I also think that we really don't know what we don't know because we don't have the lived experience for that. A lot of folks who are dealing with challenges and who have frankly been locked out of the opportunity to gain competency can offer. So I think it's great to be able to know how to run things and how to make organizations work and how to communicate and all that other stuff. But what we have to do is to begin to plan for the future and to provide people who have a perspective that has long been denied the chance to offer that perspective and to gain access to the decisions that get made that will ensure that everybody is welcome and everyone belongs. So I think that the transition from competency to the new thing is what this administration is going to have to do. You can see glimmers of it and you can see opportunities for that, but they'll have to really deliver on this. There's a promise out there, and that promise has to be delivered. And I think so. Getting back to this kind of building for the future. If season 3 of Let's Hear It, if our theme is building for the future and actually not building for the future, but is actually delivering on the promise, then I think that understanding how how that works is really important, and obviously the role of narrative and communications and being able to unlock that potential will be the sorts of conversations that I'm most interested in having this year. And by the way, I'm going to throw in a huge plug for folks who are out there listening. I hope welcome back. I hope you've missed us.
Right. We missed you.
We missed you.
We hope you're well.
We love your ideas on this. We'd love to have more of these kinds of conversations and your thoughts about who we should have on the show. And if you are listening, please drop us a line. Let us know what's going on out there.
I've got a special request.
Uh-oh.
Amanda Gorman. What are the odds? Can we please?
Probably. She might have a couple of other better.
Do you think?
Better requests
is it possible?
in the queue.
Do you think? Is it possible?
Did she not just light up a country in whatever it was in 6 minutes or something like that? Is there not power in
my goodness.
in words and in taking
goodness.
those ideas and making them sing?
Yeah, just what a moment. And given what they were working with, the needing to do things virtually, not having the huge massive collection of people out in the mall, the security backdrop that was against all of it, just to have Amanda Gorman just be this beacon, right,
so
of hope and direction, and just and we've talked about this a bit on this podcast, but this whole notion of part of our role needs to be this very intentional. I don't even think torch passing is the right way to say it, because frankly, the people bringing the torches up from behind are holding them lighted higher. Please. Exactly. Yeah. No, they're just, but just this notion.
A lot like stakeholders.
Yeah.
Every time anyone says stakeholders, I see the Frankenstein and people carrying torches.
Yeah. So as we turn the page, what are we looking at? So I think, solutions. I would love to be hearing voices across all these issues that we're working in that are really pushing this envelope now. We're going to have a chance to see how, again, competent or well-intentioned, or hopefully we'll see some progress legislatively at the federal level, see how that extends through to what that means for states and communities. I'm also really interested in exploring this urban-rural concept and what's real and what's not about that. And just, where is our focus of progressive change and positive change in a way that, when we think about equity and inclusion, how that extends, out of the urban core and covers all of our states and all of our geographies. I'm really interested in that. I mean, what are some ideas?
People?
What are some... Yeah. It says the native Iowan. A gentle reminder to philanthropy and scale that people live everywhere in this country.
The flyover.
The flyover states have people working really hard, doing cool things.
That's why you have that crick in your neck.
Yeah, that's
looking
it.
Looking at the planes.
We just keep looking up, seeing what the interesting people are doing.
Yeah,
way up there, 30,000 feet. That was literally my experience growing up in Des Moines, Iowa. You'd look up and you'd see these planes because they were always really, really high, right? Because they were like
they were not landing at Des Moines.
No, that's right. They were not.
Airport.
They were not in the flight path. Exactly.
I've been to Des Moines, Iowa.
Once?
More than once. I performed. I performed it in Des Moines, Iowa.
Really?
Yes. In the national tour of Pippin in 1975.
That is awesome.
I was negative 8 years old.
At least.
We traveled by bus, so I was in the bus understate.
Oh, that's awesome. I was going to say, I was expecting you to say I took one of the highways through, because Des Moines is like at the intersection of a north, south, east, west. So I thought you would say we stopped long enough to, grab a bite and move on.
This is very important for this podcast. I'm sure people are going to love to hear this story. But when I was in Iowa, we played Iowa State, whatever college is in Iowa City, Iowa.
University of Iowa. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So we were in Iowa, and we stayed. I remember this at the Carousel Motor Inn, and in the middle of the night, I heard
sounds right.
Pop, pop, pop. I thought, what the hell is that? And I opened the front door of our motel room, and there were bullet holes in it.
What?
my first, this New York City kid, my first experience with violent crime was in Iowa City, Iowa.
Are you sure?
Someone
Are you sure
shot
they
up
weren't
the door of our motel?
They weren't hunting pheasants. They weren't looking for a deer.
There was money all over the hallway. Someone tried to rob the front desk.
Terrible.
So my experience in Iowa was crime ridden.
Well, we're excited to be back. turning the page
You wanna hear
from a
about that?
crime-ridden past. No,
story.
I want to move on.
All right,
Don't
sorry.
disparage
Okay.
my native state.
Okay,
So
I
we're
would
going to
never
look
do
for
that.
solutions, optimism, hope, people that inspire us, just like we've been doing this past 2 years now, heading into year 3. I never thought we'd get here, Mr. Brown, not because of you, but because of me.
All right.
But you've been keeping us on track, and that's just really awesome and wonderful. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
So any last words for our folks as we take this journey into its 3rd year?
I'm just looking forward to more of these conversations, and the feedback that we've gotten from people has been really, really great. And there's so much to learn. There's a lot to be hopeful for, and there are a lot of folks that I want to talk to and to talk. And it's been exciting and fun, and I'm looking forward to more of the same.
At some point during this coming calendar year, we will also have a podcast that includes a reflection on how nice it is to be able to be in person once again. Think about that. That's coming.
Can't wait.
It's coming.
Can't wait.
So everyone, stay safe, stay healthy, stay sane, stay connected. Get your vaccine as quickly as you can as the order is set. And we're just so thrilled to have you with us. Thank you for listening. And please, as Eric pointed out, let us know who you'd like to be hearing from. It's going to be a fun year to talk to really inspiring folks, and we can't wait to do it with all of you. Any last words, Eric, before we jump off?
Thanks for listening, folks.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. That's Let's Hear It.
And that's it for this episode. Please let us know if you have any thoughts about what you heard today, or people we should have on the show, and that includes yourself. We'd like to thank
Maggie Brown, our intrepid production coordinator.
John Ali, the tuneful and inspiring composer of our theme music.
We'd also like to thank our sponsors, the Communications Network, the Lumina Foundation, and the Heinz Endowments.
Thank you. And check out the Heinz Endowment, their terrific podcast, We Can Be. That's hosted by Grant Oliphant, and you can find it at heinz.org/podcast.
We would certainly like to thank today's guest, and of course all of you, and thank you, Mr. Brown.
No, thank you, Mr. Brown.
Till next time.
Let's hear it.